Welcome to the GC Playbook Live, where we break down the legal and strategic playbook for small and medium sized companies and scaling businesses. I'm Patricia, of course, and today we're tackling a major issue for businesses: late payments. If you've ever struggled with chasing unpaid invoices, dealing with difficult clients, hands up, or securing better payment terms, this session is for you because we're going to talk about all things late payments, how to enforce them, how to protect your cash flow, and just some of the things that we need to look for when we're dealing with or selecting the people who we work with. Okay, so drop your questions in the chat. And if you're listening to the podcast replay, don't forget to subscribe and share and just tell everybody to come and to listen to me, okay? Let's dive in. Okay, so my main goal in this episode is just to talk about securing better payment terms and how to avoid some cash flow issues or risks by structuring better contracts, better payment terms in your contracts. So I don't even need to explain to you, as a business owner, you know, late payment terms are a killer, and we have all experienced them. I have experienced them. I'm going to talk a lot about my own experience as well, because we live, we learn, we share our lessons, so other people don't have to walk the same road that we walked. And so the biggest mistakes that I see some companies make in payment terms is offering long payment periods. um, a huge one is making it conditional on something that we have no control over, and just having unclear payment terms, unclear invoicing, not ensuring that your payment terms matches up with your expectations and your needs as a business owner. So what do I mean by that? Okay, from I'll just give you an example what I went through. So one of the mistakes that I made early on when I started my business, because I threw up my shingle, yeah, I'm doing my own thing. I felt good. Take it. I just wanted any client. It doesn't matter. Client has a pulse, willing to pay in quotations, because they always say they're willing to pay. The beginning is always great, and then the relationship breaks down. So in my situation, I early on, because I wanted these clients so badly, one, I would discount my services just to get these clients. But as you know, as a business owner, clients want you to walk a mile and a half for them. They do. They want you to give them so much service. And it doesn't matter. In the beginning, when you sign that contract, all they want is, draft X, Y, and Z for me, Patricia. Okay, great. Relationship starts, draft X, Y, and Z turns to like 20 million versions of X, Y, and Z. It turns into multiple calls with the clients going over things that they don't understand, that is so even not connected to what you've been asked to do. The scope creep is just real. It's in life. Scope creep is a real thing that we need to consider. And what I would do is I would just promise too much. I would promise too much and I wouldn't get compensated in terms of the payment for what I promised. I'll be doing more work than I envisioned in the beginning. And because I wanted to get these clients, my pricing did not reflect the value that I was adding to the client. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I would make these my payment condition on things that I had no control over. So I would say, for example, if it's a contract or we're negotiating a deal, I would make it conditional on the deal closing, which I have no um, control over if I'm not a part of the negotiating team. So a client brings me on, Patricia, can you draft this contract? But they don't want me to negotiate with their supplier, for example. They just want me to draft the contract, give it to them, and they have someone on their team who then takes it and negotiate these terms with the supplier. But I'm putting payment terms that I get paid once the deal is closed. I have no control over the deal being closed. I don't I laugh. I laugh now because I can laugh now, but back then I was dying inside. Okay, I was dying inside. You know, as a business owner, you know that feeling. You have overcommitted. You have this condition, and it is holding back your payment because I can't get paid until the deal closes. But I have no control over the negotiation of the deal. I'm just here to draft the contract. So those are some of the things that I did that really affected when and how I got paid. What that meant is that I got late payments so often when I started up, so often, which is another another top tip is do not get into contracts or cut these deals with a scarcity mindset. It will come back to bite you. And so those are some of the things that I did early on in my journey. That was a headache for me when it came to payment. I would get paid way later than I envisioned in my mind because of these things that I was doing. So I would say the first thing is to look at your payment terms. Get all your contracts out, look at the payment terms and start writing them down. Easy thing to get into Excel. Well, nowadays I use Google Sheets. It's very easy to put this into an Excel or Google Sheet. You just have a column: customer, name of contract, date contract entered into, payment terms, right? And you can even put a column with the work that you're going to deliver, just so you keep and you just start tracking. Is the client paying on time? Are you putting in your invoices on time according to the contract? And is client paying on time? Just start being very detailed, I would say pedantic, about the payment terms in your contracts and understanding them, because when you map it out like that, you're going to start realizing. That's what I had to do. And then I started to realize that these terms were not working for me. And here I am, I'm working with clients, helping them to get better payment terms. That's what I was doing, team. I was here helping clients to get better payment terms. Meanwhile, I was having really crap payment terms for myself. And mainly because I had a scarcity mindset and I would just take anything and I would bend over backwards, as we say. I don't really like that term, but I would go the extra mile. I would compromise just to get the contract. And if that meant compromising on having good payment terms, I would do that. But I've learned you can't build a business like that. You can't grow like that. You can't scale like that because you need money to grow and scale. So here's what you need to do. After you've done your little matrix up in Google Sheets or Excel, and you can add columns. One of the things that I do is as I go along, I'll add more columns with more detail, more information that I need to know, that I need to know to make better decisions. It's a living document. It's not static. It grows with you. And that's what I would do. The next thing is setting payment terms that actually get you paid. Set those terms that actually get you paid. And one of the things that I see, quite a few businesses do, and even like medium and big businesses do, like large businesses, because I work with small, organizations, medium, and a lot of large organizations, especially in construction. they're more medium to large. And one of the things that I see quite a few organizations do is they will get a standard form contract, and they would go to town on name of, let's say, supply if they're buying the services, or the purchaser if they're selling. They go to town on all these other things, but they will not amend the payment terms in those standard form contracts. You are allowed to, okay? You are allowed to amend those payment terms. I would say, especially as a small business, payment terms need to be high on your contracting strategy. And you need to amend that. Don't just take the standard form and take the payment terms as is. Amend them. And here's why. Only you and you alone, as business owner or as your organization, understands what you need to run your business. You know your outflows, the money that you spend, your expenditures, and therefore you know how much inflows, income that you need to cover or to exceed that outflow. Only you know. Standard form contract does not know. It is not written for you and your business and your circumstances. It is written for everyone. Okay, that's why it's called standard form. Standard. Okay. And what that means is, if standard form has in there, let's say net 60, or you get paid in 60 days, which if you work with quite a few like large employers or clients, they love to stretch out the payment days. They love it, and to be fair, some of them, like the purchase orders and finance, their turnaround time, just the process of it, is long. So sometimes it's not that they're trying to be mean to us, their turnaround time is pretty long, because when I work with clients, I'm often saying to them, you can't agree to 30 days, because just walking this through finance is 30 days before they even release the funds. A lot of businesses are getting better, because a lot of businesses realize that, especially small businesses, we need that cash flow. So a lot of them are getting better at it. But it means that you can't take that standard form and just take the terms that are there, because you know how much money you need at the end of the month to cover all these expenses. And therefore, you need to ensure that the money comes in, your income comes in before that, to cover those expenses. And that's why you have businesses where they have a lot of cash flow problems, or they have like payroll, for example, coming up, and there's no money, and they have to run to the bank for the bank to cover payroll this month, because they expect what they expected to come in wasn't enough, or they know they can get a loan from the bank, or you have those companies as well that they will give you the money to cover payroll. And then next week you're getting a lump sum. You need to pay Friday, as in this Friday. You don't have any money to pay, or you don't have enough to pay this Friday. But next week you have like 10 times that amount coming in. Like, you can't structure the business like that. And I understand, in the real world, I've been there, it happens. But for us to grow and scale our businesses, we can't structure it like that. We need to ensure that enough is coming in to cover our expenses. I would say even to exceed that. Because remember, whoever you borrow that money from, you have to pay interests, right? And the fact is that it's not like the money isn't coming in. The money is coming in. It's just that we haven't structured our inflows to match our outflows. And I did that early on when I started up. I brought in a marketing company to help me with my marketing. Lesson learned there too. And they were charging me a lot, right? Tens of thousands of pounds each month to do my marketing. That was not very good. And I realized that I was going to have cash flow issues. So, unfortunately for me, some of the contracts that I had already, I couldn't amend them to amend the payment clauses. You can do that, by the way, because I've done that for clients. It's even big organizations love to renegotiate their payment terms. Love, love, love. Because nothing is set in stone. As you realize something isn't working for you, you are free to renegotiate those terms, okay? But I didn't. Also because scarcity, I don't want these clients to leave. Oh my God, if I go back to them and say, I need my money, they're going to go to somewhere else. They're going to go insert big name law firm here and not work with me. That's what I used to think. So one of the things that I did was I started cutting my expenses, like a lot of the systems and processes that I was subscribing to and paying for, quite a few consultants that I was using. I started just downsizing. To be honest with you, that's what I did. Even last year, 2024, I did quite a bit of downsizing because I realized in order to grow, I needed to ensure that my inflows greatly exceeded my outflows. And so, as I said, I use Google Sheets quite a bit now instead of Excel. That's because I decided, I already bought my domain and everything through Google. I get Gmail. I pay for the Google Suite. I just started using them. And instead of getting Microsoft and all that stuff and Teams and everything, I just decided, okay, I'm going to go this way. I was using some client management systems, some CRMs. I just decided, okay, we're going to downsize. We're not going to do that. And that's what I did to ensure that my inflows would exceed my outflows because I didn't want to be in that position where a marketing company needed to get paid and I didn't have the money to pay them. So one of the things that you need to do is to understand that the terms when you get a standard form or you get a contract from a provider or a supplier or a purchaser, that you can and you should negotiate, amend, right? Because they're going to send it to you. Go to track changes, amend, change those terms to ensure that your inflows exceed, at least match your outflows so that you don't have that issue. So if you need to get paid in 30 days, you need to get paid in 30 days. You need to do that. If you need an upfront payment, you need an upfront payment. If you need a payment, after X thing is done, you need that payment after X thing is done. No one can tell you how to run your business. And that's one of the things that I had to learn. No one can tell you how to run your business. Okay? You have the right to negotiate any term in that contract, as well as I would say that you also ensure that if you need the payment before, you get the payment before. So one of the things that I would do is I would take payment at the end of the work, which I realized wasn't beneficial. It wasn't good for me and my business because, like I said in the beginning, I'll be putting in all this work, and I wouldn't receive any payment. So what I do now is I take a payment up front. If it's a fixed fee contract, I take a payment up front, as well as I will have milestone payments. So throughout the process, I'm getting payment. And then at the end, I would get, the final payment. That's what I would do. Before, I would be doing all the work, and then at the end is when I'm looking to get payment. That didn't help for my cash flow, especially when I brought in big name marketing company to help me. I needed to ensure the money was coming in to pay them because I didn't want to have that reputation of not paying people. Another thing that I did was to cut the conditional payment terms. So no, if I'm not involved in your negotiation, I'm not going to wait until you close your deal to pay me. Once I draft the contract, that's it. And another thing is a scope creep, is to be able to write that into your contract. How do you manage scope creep? For example, when I draft a contract, how many revisions of it am I going to allow? How many consultations are, because all of this eats into your time, it eats into your day. And there are some clients that they love it. They will just go to town with your time. Okay. They will do that. So Another thing to look for in your payment terms is to put some things that will encourage good payment habits. You can have interest rates. So if you don't get paid on time, you charge interest per day at the bank rate or higher. It's up to you and what the counterparty will agree to, right? So you start charging interest rates. You can also put in there that if you don't get paid, if let's say 5 days after the payment is due, you stop work. I've worked with clients before, particularly specialist suppliers, especially in construction, where their contract says that they can't stop working. Even if they don't get paid on time, they can't stop working. Never agree to that. If you don't get paid on time, you've done everything that you're supposed to do, you've submitted your invoice, and they still don't pay you on time according to the contract, you should have something in there that says that you can stop working. Another clause that I love is that if you fail to pay me for, let's say, two times, 2 times in a row, then either I'm going to charge interest, either my rates are going to go up, or there has to be some consequence. There should not be a third time. There should not be a third time you owing me my money. I've done all the work for you. So these are just some of the things that you can start putting into your contracts to encourage good payment habits. I like to put it that way. And another thing that I think is very important, especially for people who supply goods, is retention of title. Retention of title. And if you, let's say, you provide goods to people, you deliver goods, that's what you do. Title should not pass until you get paid. And I've seen contracts where they say title pass once the goods get to site. No, 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 no. No, I always take that out. Title does not pass until I am paid in full. Until I'm paid in full, these things, even though they're on your site, even though they're at your business place, at your house, wherever, the title remains with me. I put that in the contract. And payment acceleration clauses. So, for example, coming back to my point, if you owe me for 2 times in a row, you pay me late, then I'm going to have to change the payment terms up on you. You're going to have to, if let's say we agreed that you're going to pay me at the end when I've completed the work. If for 2 payment cycles in a row, you take long to pay me, then it's not going to happen a third time. You have to pay me up front for me to do the rest of the work for you. That's just it. That's just it. We are building businesses. Okay, team, we are here to build our businesses, right? And if we're offering you good service, we are doing what we said we would do, then we deserve to get paid on time. In the same way, as the client, the purchaser, the employer, that's what we call the client in construction. The same way you want to get paid on time is the same way I want to get paid on time too. So how do you enforce these payment terms that you're going to put in your contract? How are you going to enforce them? Well, what you need to do is come up with your process. So as you know me, I'm a process girl. I love my process. I do. There are people who are close to me who think, that's a problem. But I love my processes. And come up with your process. It can be as simple as 3 steps: a gentle reminder, a formal reminder, and then here whatever under the contract is the next step, like whether it's go to court or adjudication, arbitration, we're going to go there. We're going to go there. So come up with your process and understand what you are willing to put up with. Understand, I would say, like they say, the thing that tip the scale. Understand your scale and what will tip it. Okay? What will tip it for you to be like, the end. You need that cutoff point, and that needs to be communicated to your clients. I put that in my contract. And I will tell them. So when I do my contract, I have this informal letter, very informal, and then I have the contract. And in that letter, I'll just tell them, listen up. From my experience, this has been my experience, and this is why this is it. And I'm going to tell you right now, if this happens, very informal, just so that you know. And I had a client where I gave the client the quote. The client signed up. It was no problem. I did all the work for the client. And then when it came time to pay, the client was just like, seems a bit much. Yes. Come on now. I'm a boutique, so I don't charge like a Magic Circle firm. So I was very cool and calm about it. I just said, listen, client, you signed up to this, but I don't want you to feel taken for granted. So if you feel like the work that I've done is not value for money, if you feel that I did not add any value to this deal that you've now closed on, then it's up to you to decide if you want to pay or not. I do have those days where I'm generous, because not every fight you want to fight, So, and those type of clients sometimes, because I knew it's like a rhetorical question. I knew what the outcome was going to be. The client paid. They're like, no, 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 no. You went over and above. We really appreciate what you did. All of this were paid. And the interesting thing is that client is not a long-term client. And sometimes the client would call me up and say, Patricia, I have this issue. And I'll just be like, okay, this is what you need to do. I don't even charge them. I don't even charge them. Sometimes. So you need to come up with a way that you're going to enforce it, right? And you're going to have your process that we're going to call it or escalation strategy or escalation process. And you write that down. And it may be different for each contract, right? Because one contract may say go mediation, one contract may say go arbitration, one contract may say adjudication for the construction contract, for example. So each process may be different. But in your business, you must have a process, a lever that you pull once that risk is realized. And then the other issue I want to touch on is enforcing these payment terms without losing your clients. Like in that example that I gave where the client was just like, seems too much. And my response to that is understand that you can enforce your payment terms and still have clients. And I had to learn this as well, because when I started out, I was so scared. I was so scared of losing a client that I would be scared to enforce the payment terms. So clients, I would be carrying on working, no payment. And I'm just like complaining to myself and whoever would listen. Hi, Erickson. It is so good to see you. I would be carrying on complaining to myself and whoever would listen, right? And not go to the client because I was so scared that the client would go away. But honestly, team, it will not happen. Especially if you're doing good work, people will want to work with you. And people understand. If they're a business owner, they understand. I guarantee 100%. I am yet to go to a client, especially if you just go to them one-to-one and say, hey, listen, I'm going to need to get my payment by X date because, I got some bills coming in. They understand because on their side, they know what it's like as a business owner and have bills coming and the cash flow. They understand it, right? Very, very few clients are going to be like, don't come to me. And if you have a client like that, they should not be your client. You should just be like, you know what? This is the last contract we're going to do together, which I've done that. I've had clients where they're just like a pain and they just don't get it. And I'm just like, okay, not working together again, which also comes to selecting your clients carefully. One of the things I do now is I ask people, have you ever worked with a lawyer before? Because especially in construction and smaller businesses in construction. Construction is such a nuanced industry in that you have your quantity surveyor or your commercial manager or director, and they may be the ones drafting the contracts. They don't necessarily come to a lawyer until there's a dispute in construction. That's what you'll find. So you'll find, especially specialist construction companies, that they never really had any dealings with lawyers before, but they're growing now. Now they're putting on, like we say, they're putting their socks up, putting on their big boy trousers, and they realize that in order to grow, they need a lawyer's help. And that's when they'll come to you after they've reached a certain turnover. I would say maybe around 10 million or more. A lot of the specialist construction companies I work with are turning over like 40 million, 50 million. But once they reach around 5, 10 million, they realize, can't continue the way we're going on. We need proper contracts. And that's when they'll come to you as a lawyer. Before that, never see them. They don't see the value in the services that you bring. That's just been my experience. And so when they start working with you, because they've never had that interaction with lawyers before, they don't understand how lawyers price. They don't understand decision making with lawyers. You're waiting on them forever to make a decision. And so I ask, they can, so sometimes you find clients that they don't have the experience working with a lawyer or working with whatever service you are selling, working with a creative, like, a sound editor or marketing manager. They just don't have that experience. And that's fine, because I've had instances where I've never worked with, insert role here. And it's my first time and I have to learn. And that's okay if you're willing to learn, but there are some clients that they just don't want to learn. You stay away from those clients. They have it set in their head that this is the price they want to pay. They don't care how much legal services cost out in the industry. You leave those clients alone, right? And I've had that where, so now I ask, have you ever worked with a lawyer? So I know what is required of me in that relationship. I know I'm going to have to hold their hand a little bit longer and carry them along. It's going to require more conference calls, more Teams calls, more phone calls, more explaining. And so it's going to require a little bit more than a client who's used to working with a lawyer. So choose your clients carefully. Understand who your client is, what they need from you, and how much time that's going to require. So with clients who have no experience with working a lawyer, that requires more of my time. But as we build that relationship, I can start letting go a little bit more. They trust me more. We've built that rapport and that relationship. They trust me. They're not micromanaging me. And things tend to go a little bit smoother after that. So you can enforce your payment terms without losing clients. Don't worry about it. Be upfront, be honest. One of the things that I do in my business, I'm just the same way you see me here is the same way I conduct my business, the same way I turn up, and I just give it to them straight. And I just tell clients exactly, the way it is. I'll explain to them, hey, these payment terms, they don't work for me. I'm a small business. Come on, I need to pay X, Y, and Z by the end of the month. My info, my cash flows. And they understand and they say, okay, Patricia, typically we do 30 days, but we can do 50%, 30 to 50%, and we work something out because they want to work with you. They want to work with you. And then if all else doesn't work out, you go back to the contract, you go back to your escalation strategy, and you enforce that. Whether it be mediation, arbitration, adjudication, or even going to court or getting a debt collector to bang on the doors. That works well because people don't like people banging on their doors. I kid you not. So you look out for red flags with some of the clients, understand who your client is, and price the job accordingly. Price the job accordingly, right? And one key thing I would say is to do some due diligence on your clients. Know who you're working with. And it's very easy. You can go to company's house and you can search them out. Or a lot of my clients come and check me out on LinkedIn and they'll tell me, or they listen to the podcast, and then one client told me that they saw me on LinkedIn. They listen to the podcast, they saw my post, I'm also a medium, and they realize it all matches up together. I wasn't a different person on LinkedIn, that I was in the podcast, so they felt like I was a real human. That makes sense. But I get it a lot that the clients, they will check me out on social media, which is one of the reasons why I still do social media, is because clients will check me out on social media and be like, yeah, I want to work with her, which is great. So do your due diligence on the person, on the company. It's very easy to see their credit rating. It's very easy to go on websites like Google or Reddit or those Trustpilot or Glassdoor. Is that what it's called? Like anywhere that employees can leave comments or ratings, or customers, you can go there and you can see as well. Um, and I would say ensure that you have a payment collection process in place. So one of the things early on that I did was I didn't have anything written down. So there were times and I would miss sending in my invoices because I just forgot. I was just doing everything in my head. And as you start getting more clients, as you start growing, you can't store everything in your head. You have to put it down. So use that Excel sheet or the Google sheet that I use. And another thing that I start doing is I put it in my calendar. If you have a sophisticated system, by all means, use that. I tried some systems, I won't call the names here, that are used in the legal industry. They didn't work for me. I just need something simple that will tell me the information when I need it, that will pop up and tell me. So I will do like the calendar and say, send in invoice, and it pops up at that time, and I send in my invoice that time. I use a very simple system. So come up with a payment collection process that you use, that you can send in your invoices in time. Make sure your invoices are done in the way that is required by the contract, and enforce the payment process. So what are you going to do? You're going to go through all your contracts, look at your payment terms, see if they're fit for purpose, pull some lessons from that. That's what I did. And just start making changes in the contracts going forward. That's all you have to do. Do your Excel sheet, map it out, and start tracking. Ensure that you understand the clients that you're taking on. Know that you can renegotiate your contract terms. You can enforce your contract terms. You have a right to get paid for work that you've done. And everybody understands that. Even the law says you do work, you must get paid. Okay. So don't feel like it's a bad thing to chase client for your money. Chase them. And sometimes too, they just don't remember, especially if you're a small supplier. This has been my experience with some of these big organizations. You're a small supplier. You're not high on their priority list. They won't, you're not so high up. So you have to chase them. You have to chase them. So if you're having some payment issues, like late payment issues with clients, these are some of the things that you can do. What I want you to do is let me know if you experience late payment issues. Never, occasionally, frequently, or if it's a major problem. As usual, you can jump in my DMs on LinkedIn like you always do and ask me questions or send me comments. I would love to hear from you. And so that's it for today's session of the GC Playbook Live. If you found this valuable, make sure you're following me on LinkedIn for more live insights and legal tips. If you're listening to the podcast replay, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with fellow business owners. And if you want me to cover a specific topic, just drop me a DM. I check them, and that will give me some content for the next episodes. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.